Ladies and gentlemen, the Guns Modify TM MWS GBBR Gel Blaster. So, this thing is a one-to-one of the Geisley URG-I Upper Receiver Group Improved, more commonly referred to as the Block 3. It's just Geisley's version of a Block 3 setup. So these sorts of setups were designed to fall smack bang in the middle of military application and sports shooter use. Off the bat, I absolutely adore this thing. It is in every sense a souped up high capper with full auto and multiple redundancies throughout the entire system to reduce stress on all of the components. It has blown me away with how efficient it is and how reliable a system it is. Now, I know they are marketing it as a 14 kilogram gas system with a tight bore barrel and a basic tune and all of the stock parts, which are already upgraded. It's in entirely Guns Modify build, with a tight bore barrel and a slight tune, this thing is pumping 390 to 400 FPS on 12 kilogram gas and will basically last forever. The only thing that's ever going to need replacing is maybe in a couple of years it might need a metal recoil buffer. I cannot stress enough how efficient and how amazingly designed this system is, but they are designed to run on duster gas. You've already got upgraded parts in there. 400 FPS on 12 kilo gas is honestly amazing. So we're going to pull him apart. Obviously needs a bit of a service after having a play with it. We'll go over everything I absolutely adore about this system. We'll pull the hammer set apart, go over it all, and then put it back together. Yep, let's get into it. Alright, so, got my gloves. First things first, I think we do the upper receiver first. I'll show you the bolt nozzle system, and then we'll do the lower. Now I'm going to flip him around. And the one thing I will say for these Geisley handguard setups with the floating outer barrel, they are exceptionally easy for getting off in comparison to the normal M4A1 handguard setup with the tube and such. It's very nice pulling these off in comparison to get to your barrel. So he can chill up here for a little bit. Alright, we'll do the handguard disassembly first, just because that's a bit easier and less parts. Once we start pulling the bolt apart, that's going to get filled up. So we'll do this guy first. Now I need and that. Okay, they're going to come out. So these slot in. There we go. See, not out all the way. These slot into the Delta Ring handguard adapter thing, and out of the box, just have a check to see. So this one wasn't. The lugs weren't tightened in. You can tighten these lugs in for a little bit of extra stability. So you've also got these little guys here. Do I have a bit that matches them? I do. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, we may have to take our flash hider off first. Ooh. Okay, so this was exceptionally tight out of the box. Ridiculously tight. So you're going to need a little bit of elbow grease with this one, I think. And here is our outer barrel and barrel setup. So the only thing I have done to this entire system, this entire system is completely stock, out of the box, how they come from Guns Modify, except for a barrel upgrade and a slight overall tune, as we can see, which we'll get into. So it's a little bit tight in there because I have given him a stabilizer. Now, out of the box, the TM style is held together with two O-rings, so your barrel is sort of just floating in there. I don't like that. So what I've done with this is an actual, I don't really show the barrels much because there's not much to show. But this one, it's exceptionally important because it doesn't screw together. I have metal epoxied the chamber shut. So if you do want to change your barrel, you just boil it for 5 minutes and it'll come apart. Stock, I do not like the held together with an O-ring design. I don't know why I still have that O-ring on there. But that is the only upgrade I have done to this system to get the results that we saw at the start of the video. So that's the front of the upper receiver. I don't really have to show you too much in there. I have polished in our, if you can see in there, not very well. Whoa. Actually, that's sort of a better view. So I have given our little ramp. So if we have a look there, I can show you that. If you can see down there. The way the chamber sits when it's in there, part of this bottom part here. Oh. Hang on, let's see if I can focus that. There we go, so much better. So part of this like nut thing, I don't know what it is on a real one, tell us in the comments, is actually part of our gel ramp. So stock, they are not smooth, it's stock. All I've done is given that a bit of a smooth, as well as our chamber, so our gel gets into that little holy boy unimpeded. If you can see it. Oh, I'm terrible. Okay, so that's really all we need to see there. I just wanted to point out that I really don't like that with the Tokyo Marui design. I feel like the hop chamber should be able to be screwed solid. So that is one little Danny tech tip I'm going to give you. Man, that's in there nice and tight with the stabilizer. But you can see the reason I've stabilized it is to focus. Hold him nice and dead center to help with their accuracy. Which at those kinds of FPS, things like stabilization are very important. Well, they become a lot more important than they are at lower FPSs. So we put this guy back together. And I do really like the whole slot-in type design. Oh, wrong way. Purely for convenience's sake in assembling and disassembling. Whoa. I want to sort of put some of these bigger parts back together as we go, just to save on space. My desk is not big enough. I need a desk upgrade. Excuse me, sir. Get in your hole. Okay, so he can go up here. Then we will pull our bolt apart. Now, I really, really like this bolt design. There is so many. Let's talk about redundancies. Hammer set aside, so we've got, what, 3 in there. We have 3 redundancies on the bolt itself, depending what bolt stop you get. Bolt stop and whatever bolt cap. So the stock TM does not come with the roller. The guns modifier comes with that out of the box, and yeah, debatable on effectiveness. I still think it's nice to have the rollers. They do help. Our first redundancy there is that we have a stop on top, as opposed to the roller on the WeTech, and it is spring-loaded to reduce tension smacking back and forth, so it can actually not destroy itself. Number 2, we actually have, and I really like this, I pointed out on all the WeTechs I do, so it's not fair of me to point out how fucking awesome this is on the MWS. Our little spring-loaded front end for our nozzle. So obviously that reduces a lot of the stress when it smacks forward into the hop chamber and gasket, T-piece gasket, whatever. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Now, I have seen online that the stock TM nozzle spring is not the best. The guns modify out of the box is mint. So we'll pull this little guy apart and have a look at him inside. That is totally the wrong screwdriver. That would be the correct one. So I think once we've disassembled the bolt, we'll put him back together and put him off to the side, and then we'll do the hammer set, because I want to sort of grease everything. I'll grease the hammer set because that's our last bit. Once we start greasing stuff up, things get a bit greasy. That was a terrible joke. Okay, so this little guy slides in through the front. You're going to need to pull your nozzle forward and slide him out. We have a little spring, if I can pick him up, that sits under here, in here, and in this little groove here. Right. Now, the thing I do really, really like, over engineering, actually I'll show you how to pull that little front bit off. No, we can wait till the nozzle comes out. The whole set in here, so I haven't played with the stock Tokyo Marui one, but the guns modifier one, it's all held in with a pin, with a set of pins. So I need a, where's my other bit? That one. Oh, if I can. Is that not the right size? Oh, wrong bit. Where is he? Nope. I definitely did have the right bit for this at some point. There we go. Oh, if if I can get him. No, no, not even gonna bother. I need the big talky one. Oh, there we go. Oh, you can go off to the side. Alright, now if you're anything like me, this will be very confusing the very first time you pull it apart. The pins only go into their respective slots. If that makes sense. So let's have a look. One. And then this little guy can come out. Come on. Other way. There we go. Two. Wow. Okay. Now, our nozzly boy. So, which bit? I do believe that will be this little guy. So this is our next redundancy piece. For our roller on the hammer, or for the hammer itself, much like any hammer set, it needs to be cocked to the reel. The piece cocking it to the reel is going to cop a fair amount of wear over time. It's unavoidable. It is the nature of these devices, and that piece is going to need replacing eventually. Oh, well, depending on material type, you'll honestly get 5-10 years out of nicer metals in a well-tuned setup. So, our contact point for most of the stress on our hammer depression, hammer cockback, hammer lockback is this little guy here, which is replaceable. But by the time this wears out, you're probably going to have worn the entire bolt out, which is you're going to buy a whole new bolt and get a new one anyway. It's just another nifty little redundancy there, so that if you do, for some reason, put a whole bunch of sand through your hammer set and completely mong this, it can be replaced, which is really nice. Okay, so our nozzle is actually held in by a back pin attached to the nozzle, held in by this little spacer here. So if we push him out, which you'll see, is that focused? Focus. Boop. Our nozzle will now come out. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So there is one really cool thing here as well. The bolt itself, the bolt catch, is a rather large, very, very sturdy chunk of hardened steel. So I don't know about the stock Marui bolt, but the Guns modified bolt, that is not going to wear out anytime soon. So yeah, there we go. Let's have a look at the nozzle. I absolutely adore this thing. This nozzle system is perfectly engineered. So just the thought that's gone into it, yeah, to get our little nozzle front end off, that's like that. And I've just lost that spring. Now I'm gonna have to find him. Okay, give me like 20 minutes. Hang on.
One eternity later.
The fuck? God damn it. was on the nozzle. I didn't see it. Okay, to continue, now that we have our spring that I just spent fucking an eternity looking for, he can chill. I do very, very, very much like this redundancy point. Okay, next up. Now, our nozzle is held in with this. And the other thing I do... Whoa! The other thing I do very, very much like about Tokyo Marui, every single one of their screws or access points has a big fat head for the average toolbox screwdriver set. They want you, or they don't give a fuck. They want you, they give you your device, you can mod the fuck out of it if you want to. So this is a really interesting setup. When we pull this out, you're gonna see our spring and nozzle stop setup. Come, little friend. We should take our actual nozzle piston bit off. So, oh, actually, that's our piston, which sits at the bottom of the nozzle. Stock, absolutely awesome seal. So no modding needed, no replacement needed. And Tokyo, well, so this is the guns modifier, but Tokyo Marui in general tend to have, whoop, there's our valve and spring. Tokyo Marui in general tend to have very, very good stock nozzles. So a high kappa build, I'll opt for a stock TM nozzle piston. I'll opt for a stock TM piston for a build over something like a 5KU dynamic precision type deal, although I really do like the dynamic precision pistons as well. But yeah, much for much, the exact same results. So this is our spring and nozzle stop. So don't stretch them too much, like do not overstretch your spring, but you get a really, really strong spring with the guns modifier. Everything I've seen online about the MWS system says replace the nozzle spring straight away. The guns modifier, you're already getting an upgraded spring. That is a-okay with me, as even if we put a stainless steel set into this and I put a stronger buffer, this is totally fine for map gas, for 14 kilo map gas, top gas. Okay, what else can we say? You've got a very, very high kappa-ish tension nozzle spring and a really nice little nozzle valve. And you're gonna get, you've seen the performance there. You're gonna get awesome performance out of the stock valve. You're not really gonna get much of an upgrade going to a metal nozzle valve. They're a really, really well-tuned stock setup. They're already pushing the absolute max that they can be. As long as you've given everything a basic tune, you're going to have a very, very long-lasting device. So I reckon we put this little guy back together. So the nozzle stop itself is held in with that big long screw that we pulled out to start off with. Hang on. And there is another thing actually. So you have an O-ring that sits in the bottom of your bolt housing, bolt carrier housing, whatever we want to call this. That O-ring sort of stops this going out all the way type deal. And it can sort of come out floating. If you just put it back on that before you put your nozzle fully in, you're totally sweet. Although that seems to have stuck in. I did give it a little bit of silicone paste when we first pulled him apart. Okay, so let's assemble our nozzle. So our nozzle stop here. The way our system works, in the nozzle, you can chill there. Yeah, sits like that. this is our nozzle stop inside, if that makes sense. So when it fires from closed action position, this is in the correct spot, gets depressed, everything goes back. Okay, can I line that up? So this little might help if I put our spring and rocket valve back in there first and make sure that it's actually sitting in there correctly. This bit is a little tricky, so not the second hole, it's the first hole, the bigger hole. Yeah, don't try and screw into that first hole. So you sort of have to line him up a little bit. Get in there, boy. And looking through, so what I'm doing now is looking through the hole and lining up the light, which I can't show you on camera really and be able to do. Oh. Camera. Okay, in the correctish position. No. Wait. That is light. Yeah, look, if I want to gripe about one thing on the TM nozzle system that is absolutely perfect, that'll be it. Is you sort of have to hold this in position and get him into. I've totally moved that, and that's not in the right spot now. Hang on. I think that's our correct position. Okay. So now I can screw that into place. Alright, one piston. Give him a little bit of lube as well. Actually, I'm gonna bloop, pop him off. He can get a good slathering. Get all up in there. So I do recommend a teeny little bit of silicone oil in your bolt around your nozzle and piston setup. The more silicone oil you use in your GBB, the more of that silicone oil is going to turn your moly grease into runny choo-choo grease, basically. Okay, so you can go in. Now you're gonna have to fish. Like you'll be able to see the top of the hole. You're gonna have to fish him out a little bit to put your little spacer into. Come on. But do it from the opposite side of the piece you're putting in, if that makes sense. So I want to grab him from this side. Hang on. Come on. Like so. Now that's ready to rock and roll. Just chuck it in like that. No. Oh, you know what? We probably should have put our spring set up on first, but he can go on now. That's totally cool. Okay. So this one just clips on. We should be able to feed our spring in. He's cool. Well, can be a little bit annoying doing this separately, so you're better off clipping him on first and then just feeding that spring in. And I didn't even need a pokey tool, straight on. Redundancy. Okay, he's cool. He can get screwed on. I am going to Loctite this little guy on because he's not going to need to come apart for a while, I don't think. Ooh. Okay, teeny little screwdriver bit. Stay dab. Now, I don't know if there's any other tips or tricks with our bolt carrier setup, apart from take off any rough edges, give it a polish. The guns modify, absolutely. So for a background on guns modify, they have been making Garter equivalent upgrade parts for years and years, and I will often opt for them over 5KU or Garter themselves. Excuse me. I will straight up tell you to use Guns Modify over things like Cow. Every aspect of this blaster is what I personally would expect. Obviously, I'm a little bit OCD and everything has to be a little bit extra fine-tuned. But it's what I would expect in a product that I myself would put in a customer's hands. They're absolutely awesome. And a really, really nice stock bolt. So let's put our roller set back on. Okay, and yeah, same deal to take him out. This one actually has a grub screw if we want to take this roller here out. But I think that should be totally fine. I'm not doing that. It's an end stop. It's the exact same. Okay, in your hole. Whoop. Piece of work. There we go. Pretty sure I got that. Yep. Come. Yeah, I was a bit iffy on that when I first saw it. I do think it is possibly a failure point, but I can't really see how. I just think it's nifty engineering. And you can put your roller position any which way you want, so I don't really think it matters too much. I honestly don't think they have that big an effect on cycle function. And you know what? I feel like I am going to give this guy some blue as well. Just a tad. I feel that it is warranted as it is a high movement part. Alright, top piece. I think I actually clipped this one on with the spring in first. If I can recall. If you can sit on his little holder. You can. Wait. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get anything? Okay, no, he's not gonna let me do it. I'm gonna have to feed the spring in after. Okay, so you're gonna have to pull your nozzle forward for it. This guy slides in. Then we're gonna have to feed our little springy boy in. It's gonna have to sit back. We got this. Yes. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, these little dudes, they're going to get some Loctite as well. I always try and get the Loctite just in the threading in the surface, not on the screws themselves, because I don't like the having the Loctite smush out and into other stuff when you tighten them up. You really don't need that much. Yeah. Alright, so that is one disassembled, reassembled nozzle bolt carrier group setup. I don't know what we just call it the bolt, I guess, for gel soft and airsoft with our nifty little rollers, because rollers make everything better. I put that on skewed, by the way. Ah well, so he can chill to the side. And now, the fun part. Now it's party time. Alright. I don't even know where to begin. So I absolutely adore this hammer set. Yeah, you've got a double sear setup, a triple sear setup, because you have an extra one on the trigger itself, and a giant, very, very high capper-esque hammer and nozzle setup. Hammer and firing pin setup. The bolt catch system itself is also amazing and has its own redundancy, which we're going to see. And so it's a little bit more complicated. It's very over-engineered, but what it does is reduce overall stress on all the components. So we'll pull him out and yeah, we'll have a look. I really, really like the hammer set in these things. I don't know why I did that. So first things first. And I do believe we should be able to use real steel grips on these, as long as you keep that, keep the stock TM screw. So they're a little bit different to real steel. There's no, to real steel, to a real gun. Yeah, there's a nut that sits in here that this screws into, and there's no spring or detent that goes up into our fire selector. The spring for this guy sits in our hammer set. So the really, really cool thing that I like about this is that all of these components, well, apart from the fire selector itself, are all sort of part of the hammer set. The mag or bolt catch itself, this entire system, is part of the hammer set, as opposed to a separate side piece. Woo. And there goes our nut. Okay. Now, which way does it unscrew? Basically, Tokyo Marui have gone balls to the wall, over-engineering a souped-up high kappa system to make it as close in function to a real gun as they can, while making all of the internal components as different as possible. There we go. Woo. Okay. These two are fake. This is our punch one. But we shouldn't really do that. Shouldn't do your punch pins like I just did until you undo this back screw, this back lug, because that will undo tension on that. So I'm gonna just leave that sticking out and not hit it again. Is that the correct size? We shall see. Oh, it is. Alright, now, this little guy I have found, well, because I'm used to the WeTechs, I found this a little bit fiddly to get out, but I think that is due to they are very, very, you have a lot of spring tension on the detent coming off of the side of the hammer, which we'll see in a sec. Yeah, normally with the WeTechs you have to have the hammer pushed down to try and get it out. This guy sort of just seems to require a little bit of tension and then twisting around. Okay, now this should just come out. You may need a little bit of tension underneath, but he should just pop out. Wow. Oh. Might help if I push our pin out now. So that should just push out now that there's no tension on there. Easy peasy. Now this little guy will just slide out. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So this is our Tokyo Marui MWS Guns Modified hammer set. Well, I say like Guns Modified because it's their version of the TM MWS system, and it is really out of the box. So this is their zinc hammer set. No, it is not CNC, but what it is a slight upgrade on the metal quality that you get in a stock Tokyo Marui. So high cappers, for instance, there is a reason that anyone who wants a high capper goes for a Tokyo Marui high capper, even though it has a plastic slide. It is the quality of the metal frame and the internal components. Guns Modify, any of their normal steel setups are a slight upgrade over the quality of a stock Tokyo Marui. So with a stock TM, where you're going to get sort of 5+ years you're going to get out of a well-tuned device that you look after and maintain. You're going to get just as long or longer with better performance, well, there we go, out of the stock steel Guns Modify drop-in replacements for parts. They're just fucking awesome. Okay, so that is actually our bolt catch setup. The way this works, and this is our first redundancy here, is we have, yeah, I'm going to show you. It all just sits in. Now there is a spring in their stock. I have chopped it down and made it a lot weaker. You don't even need it for the way this system works because you've got the weight of these components pushing it down. So even if the gun is sideways, the weight will pull it back. But I feel that you still need a small amount of spring tension there for this to work properly, if that makes sense. So I'm not just rambling like a crazy person. But the way this works is this little angle bit is what stops our bolt on our reinforced steel bit. So it catches that, you pull it, it falls back. Now, the magazine pushes this up, which pushes this up, which lifts this up to catch it. Now you have redundancy on the bolt catch itself. So when it goes up, you've got this extra little bit with a very, very thick spring that the amount of tension on this guy is massive. That takes the tension of the bolt trying to go forward. So all of that weight isn't just going onto this little corner here. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. Where do we start? I'm just pulling it apart. That's what we're doing. And again, in true Tokyo Marui style, we get some nice big fat face lugs for the average screwdriver kit, so you don't need any special teeny weeny bits that are going to strip straight away. And unlike the WeTechs, which are very sort of one-to-one, this thing is very, very easy to assemble and disassemble. It actually reminds me of a P99 hammer set. So, just unclip. Ta-da! It's not going to fall out. And this is our hammer set. So the way it's set up is you have a sear here to lock the hammer back. You have a sear here and you have an extra sear here. So obviously for a full auto device, it's basically in full auto, full stop, and the sear gives us the ability to have single fire. And yeah, the ability to differentiate between them with a selector. It's going to unlock and I've just cocked the hammer, but yep, there we go. This has 3 sears. You have 2 sears on this. That is absolutely fucking beautiful. So the way full auto works is, even in full auto, it's using the sear mechanism. So the way full auto and semi works is that the sear is actually what gives us the single fire, and having that negated is what lets the device work in full auto. The way this works is it has an extra sear as a redundancy to work in full auto, but that sear is negated by the selector switch and an extra little lever. The entire system is absolutely beautiful. And if you have a closer look here, I just don't want stuff to fly out. But to be honest, I've pulled it apart twice now, nothing's flung out. Let's focus on that. Have a look at that valve knocker. Does that look familiar at all? Doesn't look like a big, giant, erect high kappa valve knocker? Yeah, it does. It really does. Focus. So we're going to pull this guy apart, and then we're going to put him back together. We're going to Loctite him up so he's nice and taut. And that should be a ready to re-grease and reassemble gun. Toy gun. Gel blaster. I know everyone gets wrapped up on the terminology, but on people calling them guns. What is it representative of? A gun. It's a toy gun. Fucking get over it, cunts. So, let's pull this guy apart. Trigger out first. So yeah, this is where I want to say my final thoughts on this hammer set is that it is basically a super modified high kappa G18 hybrid with a trigger mashed in. Instead of having a separate bar here that you push in, that mechanism itself is the whole trigger, which has an extra sear on it. I don't like G18s. I think they're a really inefficient setup. I think high cap is a good. I think this is, realistically, if you want a full auto high kappa, this type of setup is what you want for a hammer set. Yeah, I couldn't honestly just sit here and telling you how much I love this thing all day. It is beautiful. So let's pull our little trigger boy out. The one thing that is semi real gun like, even though it has its own, it's semi real gun ish, but then they make it stupid for no reason other than redundancy. This little guy is that's what gives you your trigger tension. And he attaches, excuse me, up here. So all it's doing when you push your trigger in is pushing against the cocked hammer for the tension. And that tension comes off this little spring here. So if you want to adjust your trigger pull tension, you're doing it with this little guy here. So I don't like that. That's annoying. It's not like a big fat trigger spring. I don't know what I'm doing. I can just push the thing out. The only realish component, or semi-real gun component, is our initial actual hammer seal itself. It looks semi-real gunnish, but again, a weird shape. It's one of the only components apart from the bolt housing itself that you can clearly say, like, yeah, that sort of looks like a real gun, I guess. It just, Tokyo Marui have been doing what they do for 65 plus, like 68, 70 years. I don't even know. You tell me in the comments. They have been doing it for a very, very long time. You're not going to engineer anything better than them in terms of the efficiency that you get off dusty gas and the longevity of those parts. That's what they do, and they do it really, really well. Okay. Trigger and trigger tensioner setup. Okay, so then our sears can come out. Pull both of those. The springs on these guys don't matter because they're actually both the same size because they both do the same thing. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you mix them up. Come on, little guy. I always like a scalpel to poke springs out because they're really nice. You can get them in between your tensed up spring coils. Sear 1, Sear 2. Now, this is actually I'll show you this guy and our trigger afterwards in a sec, because you'll understand the function a little bit better once I pull the hammer out. This is basically the exact same as a P99 hammer, the WeTech P99. It is pretty much the same shape, size, function. The shape and function, the way the roller works, it's just supersized. So they took like it's like they're the exact same thing. One's big, one's small, and it's a little bit annoying to get in and out. So we'll actually take our valve knocker out first. He's gonna come out. It's our spring. So that just sits with the little pointy guy facing inwards. He's pretty easy peasy. That is a just Quasimodo steroided up high kappa valve knocker. Yes, motherfucker ate his Wheatie Bix. Yeah, basically it's just like a high kappa valve knocker that got roided up to the shit house, and ate a shit ton of Wheat Bix and got super tall. Alright. Hammer time. So the actual hammer itself, the shape of it and the way the roller works, it cops fuck all tension in cycle, or fuck all impact in cycle, and then most of that impact is negated through the rest of the system. Yeah, so it's a little bit annoying to get in and off, in and out, on and off. Roller, same deal. Pins slide in. Beautiful. Beautiful. And our spring itself. So, nice. Nice. Our hammer spring basically just rests here from behind and sits in there. Exactly the same way a P99 one does. Now, what I wanted to show you guys, actually, that's not even important. I just think it's really cool how it's like the same as the P99. I love the P99. Okay, what I wanted to show you guys, which shows you the clear difference between any of the, like a real gun and the WeTechs, which are very one-to-one. The way the trigger works, it's fucking awesome. So this is actually this little guy slides up in this groove. Come here. So after you pull your trigger and your initial sear is released and the system releases, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm a fucking idiot. He's going to sit there. Your sear is actually, so after you've depressed, your sear is actually your release point. So it does have a trigger lever. That's your trigger lever. So again, instead of, oh, we almost lost him. Like a high kappa, like I was just saying, but instead of having the bar and the lever, it's all back here mushed up. It does have a trigger lever. It's just really teeny tiny. It is fucking awesome. I really, really, really like this design. Everything about it is just redundancy on redundancy. Yeah. Now that I've stripped everything together and told you guys all my rambly techie thoughts, I suppose it's probably time to grease him up and put him back together. But before I do that, yum. Anything else I can think of that we might possibly need to know techie wise? So that is our, yes, actually. So that is what gives us tension on our fire selector. For our clicky points, you want to adjust that, stretch this little guy here. This little guy comes ridiculously strong stock. You don't need to adjust this guy. Well, on the guns modify, yeah, very, very strong. what else can I think of, guys? I think that's about it. You don't need to adjust your hammer spring. You're getting a 400-ish FPS device on 12 kilo gas. There is not much you need to be worrying about. Yeah, let's grease them up, put them back together, and I think that is all you guys need to know. Well, I think. If I've missed anything, obviously you can tell me in the comments that I'm a dickhead. So let's do it. First things first, I'm going to blue this. I had a little thing for it. I'm going to put some Loctite in this threading. I'm going to grease these guys and put them all back in. I just want to do this first so I can still pick up the bottle. And a 2. And 3. I'm going to need you again. Okay. So, first things first, let's actually just get some all up in that frame housing, whatever. Look, the more grease you use, the more it's going to pick up dust and other stuff like mashed gels. But if you give it a light coating and you are in a tuned device, you're only going to have a mash like, you know, X amount of gels. As long as you keep it clean, you really don't need to be lathering it on. Like, you do want a nice, healthy, shiny coating though. Nice and shiny. And the other nice thing about the Tokyo Marui trigger, with the way the sear sits in, has a like, this is the gun's modifier. I don't know about the stock one, but it has a nice little cutout bevel for the spring to sit in, so you don't have to try and keep tension weirdly on it. Excuse me, sir. Just doesn't want to clip in. There we go. Okay, sears. Ooh. 1. 2. Valve knocker. And hammer itself. Get some on your little roller. Whoop. That's why I like doing the greasing last, because it makes my already clumsiness 10 times worse. Excuse me, get in your hole. Excuse me, sir. There we go. Okay, I reckon valve knocker in first. No. Incorrect. Incorrect. This cunt. This guy in first. So the best way to do it, spring in first. This is, trial and error with the P99, which is the exact same annoying hook it over something setup. You basically want to semi get it on, god damn it, like so, and get the spring sitting where it should be, and then bend it, try and bend it over. It's really annoying. Try and hold it and get him into the right spot. Yep. Yep. Okay. And now we have to flick that bottom part down. So I'm going to focus on that. Make sure your spring sits in this little groove under that. It does not sit here. Camera. You little shit. There we go. Okay. So that's still not in correctly. So the spring's not sitting in properly. Now I have to like try and like so. That roller should absolutely be able to scrape on the side there if you put tension on it. So you haven't got it in right if it's not clear and like flush up against that. So just be wary of that. Oh, focus. Now my mouse is covered in grease. Alright. Valve knocker. No, he can go in last. He can go in last. Sears in first. Siri boys in first. So number 1. Did that with my finger. Number 2. This one's going to flick off into the oblivion. No? Thank you, sir. Okay, now we'll put our trigger lever. How cute is it? It really reminds me of the holder for the tappet and nozzle on the Vector, actually, on our gel Vector. So this little guy is going to be a little bit annoying until you actually get everything sitting in there properly. He may slide out. You sort of have to get him in there. Please get in the right spot. Yep. That looks semi-correct to me. Woo! We have tension on our trigger. And our lever is moving. Our sears are in the correct spot. Now we need a valve knocker. Nope. Oh, no way I did that with my finger. Damn. Okay. Make sure we have function. Now that looks a-okay to me. There's your reference. That's how everything should be sitting before we try and screw them back together. Wow. Okay. A little bit more grease just for good luck. That should just... Oh, by the way, before we do that, so this little guy is just sitting in there, this little spinny boy. That extra bit is just held in by these guys. Yeah, I can take it out if you really want to. You just put a screwdriver into here and fish it out and get the spring out. Which you should do for a full take everything apart and degrease it. You absolutely should be taking everything apart, putting it in a container and scrubbing it all with a toothbrush. Okay, that feels groovy to me. Oh no, I've lost a piece. So I'm gonna have to take that off. So that's also a little bit important. You have a little washer, a little ring. I can't even pick it up. There we go. You have a little ring that sits in here, and putting some grease in there helps keep him in. So the purpose of this little guy is to stop your trigger circle bar thing that it sits on from floating around too much. Please don't fall out. Alright, I believe that's in the correct position. Or not? No. Yes, sir. Okay. There we go. Now I can screw them back together. Make sure I've got the right hole. To make sure they're nice and tight, and they shouldn't be needing to be pulled apart anytime soon. Okay, and if we've done everything correct, our little lever should move like so. If you don't have your finger on it, it can pop out. But that is a functioning, nice and greased up hammer set. Now I'm going to grease the bolts up. Lube it up. Nice and thick. Well, not too thick. And try not to get like too much of it inside there, because that's where our nice silicone oil is sitting. It's not enough to make sure that this is anywhere it's touching. Give me that. Yeah. Some nice moly protection for our metal on metal contact. That sounds so hot. I need more. Luckily, we're going to give the external a wipe down with a metho rag to get all the grease off once I'm done. Get it all up in there. Yeah, again, the more grease you have inside your receiver, the more it's going to attract dirt, the stickier it's going to be. But a nice, healthy protection is going to make your device last a hell of a long time. Okay, and some in our charging handle. You can see how dry that is. Yeah, nice. red. Alright, that's an upper. Now we can put our lower back together. Well, now I'm not taking the buffer tube off, just because I don't want to scratch up the locking nut. I'm really, really bad at that. Your plastic buffer tube, it's a stock Marui one. That is gonna last you sort of 5+ years in a maintained device. At some point, you may want to upgrade to a metal one, but when you do that, you're gonna have to match that stock weight if you want to keep the performance of the gun the way that it is. They're very, very well tuned as is. So for your buffer tube, the only reason I want to pull that apart is to show you how to get this little lug out. It's sitting behind the sling plate. There is a tiny little lug screw behind here. You undo that and this little guy will come out, easy peasy. You can see the lug screw on the side holding him in. So yeah, no, I can't be fucked. I'm not doing that. If you're angry that I'm not pulling that off for you, you can go fuck yourself. Yeah, a little bit of... We'll give him a little bit of a smear in there. Actually, I totally forgot. He'll want a little bit of grease as well. Get on there. Get on there. Bolt catch. Technically, this isn't the bolt catch in this system. This is the bolt catch. This is the bolt catch pusher. Yeah, and I really, really, really do like how the whole system sort of just sits together. So this will just sit on. Get in your hole. Excuse me. Nope, nope, nope. There we go. Whoa. No, don't fall off. Okay, that's our assembly. Now I'm going to put some blue in. I can't put that down without it falling off now. God damn it. Put some Loctite in that back screw hole. Ooh. Well, and the screws now in there. Alright. Make sure he's in the right spot. Everything. Hey, excuse me. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to put our login pin. Lug. It's not even. Yeah, I think that's even. Okay. Oh, you poo. Where's my magnet? No. Yeah. Okay. Nice and tight. Okay, do we have function? We should do, I assume. Yes, sir. Okay. Fire selector. They typically help sometimes. Although you can just ditch this and have a semi-locked gun. Right, now to get him back in, we have to depress this little guy here. So there's two things. We've got to push down our trigger seal, and then we've got to push down that spring. So we need to get in there. One. And now we've got this little bastard as well to worry about. Which is cool, because if you just sort of put tension against it, it'll come through when you depress this little guy. If I can get it. Almost. We're getting there. Come on. Nope. Nope. That, yeah. It's a bit hard when everything's greasy. Okay, where's a flathead? Like you. Boop. I'm gonna get him. Or not. There we go. Whew! Look at that. Now I scratched the fire selector. Oh. Look at that. Okay, so. Refocus. Do we have proper function? Yes, we do, sir. Okay, full order. Ooh. We definitely want a grip. Although, this is a very nifty maneuverable setup. Don't let anyone tell you you need a pistol grip on your toy gun. If you don't want a grip, you don't have to have a grip. Because they're not like AEGs, and they don't have a motor in there. Oh, we missed him. Okay. I thought I could be super skilled and just drop that into the hole. Ah. Oh, you tight. You know me. I'm not going to Loctite this one just because it is running off that nut setup. If that nut seizes on that, yeah, I can't really hit the polymer grip with a blowtorch to soften it up. Okay. which way actually screws in. Yep, like that. Woo! I only ever screw these in enough so that they're flush with our button. One more. Like so. Alright, so that is an assembled lower, an assembled upper. Everything's greased. We've Loctited all the points. I think that could possibly be the entire video. I can't think of anything else tech tip wise we really need to be going over. Yeah, and I can see I bumped the camera and skewed the angle. Oh, I will give you one final tip. I don't know if I covered this in my WeTech one. This is just GBBRs in general because we're constantly pulling them apart. If you have a look, yeah, focus. See these little points here on the actual pin things? They're just dabs of super glue. And all that does is hold our upper and lower into the frame much tighter when we screw it together, so we don't get as much wibble wobble. Yeah, I think that is our tech tip full rundown on the Tokyo Marui, Guns Modify TM MWS. It is an absolutely amazing system, the MWS by itself, and the Guns Modify version of that system is just the next step up. Again, you don't need to upgrade anything in this stock. The only reason I upgraded the barrel is because I am a fucking snob, and I'm not happy with the lower FPS. These are amazing out of the box, and they get the 100% Danny seal of approval. You give this thing a slight tune with completely stock parts, you have a 5 to 10 year gun. And the sky is the limit in terms of upgrades. Everyone makes Tokyo Marui upgrades, but I will say, stick with Guns Modify. They do make really, really good nozzles. They make really, really good pistons. Their hammer sets are fucking awesome. And you've got an entire gun built with those parts already. There is nothing you need to change. Anything I've forgotten, yeah, I think this is the end of the video. Anything I've forgotten, let me know in the comments. I'll probably do another video at some point once all the stainless replacement bits come in for them. But apart from that, I think that's pretty much everything I can think of. Yeah, I shall leave you guys to it and see you in the next video. Peace.